I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name is Alex Maxwell. I'm a graphic designer and illustrator from Hunterdon County, New Jersey. My thesis presentation here marks the end of a very fruitful time of my artistic life. I was able to achieve a dream that I'd always hoped to, and it is because of this program that I'm able to say that. I look forward to sharing with you my experiences, my struggles, and my successes as I went through my time here at Marywood. So without further ado, I invite you to Coney Island of the Mind, Revisited. Before I get into it, I first want to discuss a term I'm borrowing from Frank Zappa called Project Object. It has helped me to put into perspective this project, and if I can paraphrase his definition, it means that every separate project that one does in their life has a higher object that they are looking to complete. Today's project, Coney Island of the Mind, but the object is, and in many ways always has been, the breakdown of an established idea, reconstructing it and making it original again. Where does that creativity come from, and where does it take me? So, who is Lawrence Ferlinghetti? The man of the hour, or at least the next 15 minutes. He is my co-creator in this project and the author of Coney Island of the Mind. He was a poet, a painter, a lover of music. He was not a beat poet, but was closely connected to the likes of Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac. He stood up for freedom of speech and artistic freedoms. He owned City Lights Bookstore and Publishing, illegally published the first copy of Howl, but while most of his story takes place in San Francisco, we must go back to the East Coast. His story starts on the East Coast in New York City in 1919. He was born in Yonkers, and it wouldn't be until 1951, at the age of 32, that the eventual poet laureate of San Francisco moved west. But I want to first stay here in Brooklyn and talk about my initial connection with this project. I moved to Brooklyn in 2007 the first time, and Coney Island was always this magical place, a few short subway stops away from me. And it wasn't until I started reading the poetry that I realized Coney Island had very little to do with these poems, and only as the title. The title itself was borrowed from Henry Miller's Into the Nightlife. Ferlinghetti uses it to describe these poems and the characters inside them. Anyway, taken on face value alone, this place was special to me, and I always located it as a place that I fell in love with my wife. That is why my first attempt were silkscreens I made using Polaroids of us at Coney Island during the summer, coupled with a few lines of poetry. As much as I liked these pieces, I felt there was potential for something bigger, and it wasn't until I rediscovered an old favorite album that my idea shifted a few days before our fall presentation. That album was Billy Bragg and Wilco's Mermaid Avenue, coincidentally also taking place in Coney Island. On this album, the artist took old Woody Guthrie lyrics, unattached to any music, and reimagined them, often taking on a whole new style and feel that one would not associate normally with the folk singer from the 1940s. This was the changing of the guard, so to say, in the project. I wanted to adopt this idea and plug in these poems that up until this point I barely understood. So, I bought a copy of this million-selling book of poems and started to structure out ideas for 14 songs. My one rule was going to be that I could not change any of the poem's original structure, but because I'm here for visual arts and I knew I needed to make a visual component of the project. So while working on the same concept of recreating already original imagery, I focused on collage as my medium for the visuals. Adding these two ideas together became the interactive gallery of music and visuals, but I was not sure what that was going to look like. I'd always been intrigued by the documentary of Jackson Pollock making his artwork, almost as if you, the artist, was his canvas, and I thought how amazing it would be to walk into a gallery and not only see the work, but it being made. Something about that process seemed educational, but also magical, a peeling back of the curtain. It was a feeling that I got watching the Beatles' Get Back documentary, watching them create, and I thought how amazing it would be to be able to go to a museum and see Escher, Da Vinci, and Picasso create these works of art that are standing right in front of me. But I needed to know what I was talking about when creating these songs and the visuals, so the first thing I began to do was study the poems. I photocopied the book and I put the pages into a composition notebook, writing down notes, ideas, and sketches as they came to me. Words I wouldn't understand, I would look up, and lines I didn't get, I would break down. And as I did this, I began to focus on the 14 poems that would make up this project. Often in songwriting, the question is, what comes first, the lyrics or the music? And since I already had the lyrics, the question really was, what was going to come first, the visuals or the music? And to be honest, there was no set process, but for this presentation, I'll go over the visuals first. During the creation of my process, all these moments would at one point be happening. Sometimes they would overlap, sometimes they'd flow together like a well-choreographed dance. Over the course of 2 years, I began collecting printed materials to work from. I had amassed over 750 magazines, which I sorted into chronological order, ranging from the 1940s all the way up to the 1990s. I had close to 500 books that I had collected from thrift stores, garage sales, and eBay. I organized these by loose categories such as travel, sports, cooking, etc. And the process would normally start with a rough sketch where I would go through books and magazines, tearing out pages that I thought had potential. I would begin to build the idea in my head as I went along, cutting out with more precision the pieces that I thought would be ideal for this actual work. And instead of building these out by hand, I would take the pieces to the scanner and scan them, in essence creating both a digital library as well as a physical library. Sometimes my interns would help with this part. And once on the computer, I would start to build these works to scale in Photoshop at 300 dpi. For the songs, I turned my corner of the basement into my own little recording studio. I laid down a rug, and I put up some cheap sound panels and surrounded myself with instruments, including a Fender Stratocaster, a Yamaha keyboard, and an old PV bass I purchased a decade ago on Craigslist. I would often start out these songs by just recording myself reciting the poems over a drum loop. That would then develop into melodies, harmonies, and some sort of strong song structure. I ate well and I stayed hydrated. Now, because these poems are not your usual June spoon moon rhyme scheme, it was sometimes a difficult process of getting the words to fit the melody, but I kept at it and I really worked on the spacing of the language. And just like I was using Photoshop to help build the visuals, I was using a program common in the music industry called Logic. This allowed me to build tracks on top of each other, very much like a collage, till I reached a finished composition. I could build from a starting drum beat, add a chord progression, add a bass line, and then multiple vocal lines, often harmonizing with myself. I would use my notes to help me create an identity for each track that felt different and specific for that song. A song like this one dealt with defiance, so I tried to incorporate a heavy distortion and a grunge feel. So, to combine these two mediums, song and visuals together, I wanted to create a music video gallery where by scanning a QR code, the still images on the wall would come to life. Here's a very short video on how that is done. And pay close attention, there's a quiz at the end.
What's wrong, Timmy? Are you sad because that work of art on the wall just sits there, never moving? Ever want to see your favorite art pieces being created at that moment? Well, now you can, thanks to Zappar! Simply download this app using this handy-dandy convenient QR code screen shown at this very moment. Simply download and walk into the gallery. Still don't know how it works, Timmy? Your You're so stupid, Timmy, but that's okay. I will show you what to do next. Simply walk up to any piece of art you find mildly entertaining, scan that zapper code with your phone, and then move your camera to the art piece and watch how it comes alive. Does that sound good to you, Timmy? Good! Now, if you're at home and want to join Timmy in a new way of looking at art, download your very own Zapper app and zap some art. It's free!
So, what is the next project in the object? Let's take a break. But eventually, someday I would like to fly to San Francisco and do a performance of these songs at City Lights Bookstore and Publishing. And so I thought I'd finish today's presentation with an example of how that would work. Count me in, boys.
1, 2, 3, 4!
What could you say to the fantastic Foolie Bear? Oh, what could you say to brother? What could you say to the cat with future feet? Oh, what could you say to mother? Till that time as she lay lush amongst the lolly flowers on the high river bank, where ferns fell away in the broken air. The breath of a lover, and the birds went mad, and they threw themselves from trees to taste the hot upon the ground that spilled sperm seed.
So in the beginning I said, this program has helped me complete a dream that I always had. And that dream, well, it wasn't to get my MFA, but that dream was to hear myself on a vinyl record and to have my own music on a vinyl record. And so that is what I've also done with this project. I've pressed 25 records of Coney Island. So not only can you hear it on Spotify and Amazon and Apple Music, but if you have a record player, you can hear it on that too. I just want to say thank you to all the teachers at Marywood. All the conversations that we've had have somehow played a part in this project, I know. I did a project about 3 years ago where I made a short little music video, little hand animation, and one of the lyrics at the end, it was kind of a throwaway line. The line was, "I want to feel like a student again." And you guys really made me feel that way, and it was a great feeling. I want to thank Stephen, obviously, for not only bringing me to the program, but introducing me to Coney Island of the Mind, and Lawrence Ferlinghetti. I never would have done this without him. And all the students and classmates I've gone through the program with, especially Pat McLean, who has helped me out every step of the way on this project with ideas, brainstorming, and technicality issues. So I want to make sure to thank everyone there. I also would like to thank my mother, who kept pushing me and encouraging me and nagging me to further educate myself and get some higher education. So thank you. I wouldn't be here without you, both on this earth and in this program. I would like to thank my neighbor, Todd Laffler, for producing this album, putting it together, working with me, being another person to bounce ideas off of. One of the things that I've maybe been slow to realizing is that art is not done in a vacuum, and it is with other people, and it was a great experience working with him. I'd like to thank Danette Pascarella for taking the photographs in the book, and helping me digitalize my artwork. And then, of course, ultimately, I'd like to thank my beautiful wife, who has been with me every step of the way of this project, and has not given up on me and has encouraged me, and only kicked me out of the basement once. So I just want to thank you and thank everybody. This would not have been complete without everybody's help. So thank you.